When we think of a Fortune 500 CEO, our minds immediately paint a picture of absolute, unvarnished luxury. We see the private jets waiting on tarmac, the pristine corner offices overlooking Manhattan, and the staggering headline compensation packages. The data backs it up. The median compensation for an S&P 500 chief executive has climbed to a mind-boggling $17.7 million a year. To put that into perspective, the average CEO now makes over 340 times more than their median employee. From the outside looking in, it looks like the ultimate victory in the game of capitalism. You win the corporate ladder, you get the keys to the kingdom, and you are set for generations. But what if the numbers we see on the news are a complete illusion? What if the vast majority of that multi-million-dollar paycheck is money they are legally forbidden from spending? What if the luxury perks are actually a golden cage, designed to protect them from growing public rage? And what if the literal price of holding the top job is a tax paid in blood pressure, psychological isolation, and years shaved off your life? Today, we are conducting a full economic, logistical, and biological audit of the most envied position in global business. We're going to strip away the PR fluff, look at the cold hard data, and calculate the real net return of being the boss. Because as it turns out, the corner office costs a lot more than you think. Let's start by destroying the biggest myth of executive compensation, the direct deposit. When you hear that a CEO made $20 million this year, your brain naturally assumes they have a bank account accumulating millions of dollars every single month. In reality, their actual cash flow looks shockingly modest compared to their net worth. If you look closely at the proxy statements filed with the SEC, the median base salary for a Fortune 500 CEO is only about $1.4 million. Don't get me wrong, that is an incredible amount of money, but it represents less than 8% of their total publicized payout. So where is the other 92%? It's locked away in a complex web of restricted stock units, performance shares, and stock options. A CEO doesn't get paid in dollars. They get paid in promises that are tied entirely to the performance of the company's stock price over a 3 to 5 year horizon. And here is the trap. A CEO cannot just log into a brokerage account and cash out their shares when they want to buy a mansion or a yacht. They are bound by incredibly strict SEC insider trading regulations and internal corporate blackout periods. To sell even a fraction of their stock, they have to set up what is called a 10b5-1 plan, months or even a year in advance. This means if the market tanks or a global crisis hits right before their scheduled sell date, millions of dollars of their wealth can vaporize instantly on paper, and they are legally powerless to stop it. To make matters worse, the era of the guaranteed payout is completely dead. Welcome to the age of say-on-pay. Under modern corporate governance laws, institutional shareholders hold mandatory votes on executive compensation. If a company's stock underperforms even slightly, or if the public perceives the CEO as overpaid, shareholders will launch massive public revolts, forcing the board to claw back, slash, or entirely revoke the CEO's unvested equity. This creates a strange financial paradox. A high-end neurosurgeon, an elite corporate lawyer, or a mid-level hedge fund partner often enjoys far more liquid, usable cash and financial freedom than a Fortune 500 CEO whose multi-million-dollar net worth is entirely trapped in the volatile, highly scrutinized digital vault of public market equity. But let's say the stock performs beautifully, the wealth vests, and the CEO becomes wildly rich. Now we encounter the second hidden cost, the total erosion of personal freedom, and the rise of what corporate psychologists call gilded isolation. For decades, the public viewed things like corporate jets, private drivers, and personal security details as flashy, unneeded perks thrown at spoiled executives. But in the modern social and political landscape, these aren't perks at all. They are operational necessities, born out of genuine calculated risk. Over the last several years, corporate spending on executive security has absolutely skyrocketed. According to proxy data, nearly 38% of S&P 500 companies now foot massive six-figure bills, specifically for their CEO's physical protection. We are talking about retrofitting personal homes with military-grade security systems, hiring around-the-clock armed bodyguards, and mandating that the CEO never travel on a commercial flight. This isn't corporate paranoia. It is a direct response to a fractured world, following severe executive safety crises, including targeted, high-profile violence against corporate leaders. The reality of being the public face of a multi-billion-dollar enterprise has completely transformed. When a company lays off 10,000 workers to protect profits, or when a brand becomes the focal point of a massive cultural or political boycott, the anger isn't directed at an abstract corporate logo. It is directed at the CEO. Their home address is leaked online, their family members face digital harassment, and their daily life requires constant guarded surveillance. Think about what that does to the human psyche. You can no longer walk down a normal street. You can't take your kids to a public park without a threat assessment being conducted beforehand. Every casual interaction is mediated by an ex-military security detail. You live your life inside a highly secure, sterile, gilded bubble. You have all the money in the world, but zero privacy to enjoy it. But the steepest price a Fortune 500 CEO pays isn't measured in dollars or restricted privacy. It is measured in biological time. The toll of the corner office is a literal tax paid with the human body. In a landmark study published in the Journal of Finance, researchers set out to quantify the exact physical toll of executive stress. They utilized advanced facial recognition software to analyze the accelerated visible aging of CEOs before and after major corporate crises. Then, they mapped that data against decades of health outcomes. The conclusions were staggering, leading a major public firm through a severe, prolonged market downturn. Forces that are frequently completely outside of the CEO's personal control, shaves an average of 1.1 years off their total life expectancy. Why does this happen? Because the daily schedule of a modern CEO is a masterclass in chronic sleep deprivation and sustained high cortisol survival. The typical Fortune 500 CEO works an average of 62 hours a week inside the office, but their mind is on the clock 24/7. They operate in a hyperreactive state. A single bad tweet from a prominent politician, a sudden algorithmic disruption, a cyber attack that leaks customer data, or a supply chain bottleneck on the other side of the planet can wipe out billions of dollars in shareholder value overnight. When you are the ultimate decision maker, there is no one left to pass the buck to. The buck stops with you. Every single hour of every single day, this level of sustained, relentless pressure creates a state of permanent allostatic load. The wear and tear on the body that accelerates cardiovascular disease, decimates the immune system, and fractures mental well-being. So, let's run the final net calculation. Let's do the definitive mathematical breakdown that the mainstream financial media completely ignores. We start with that massive, eye-popping headline figure, $17.7 million. Now, let's strip away the 80% that consists of unvested paper equity, options, and performance-restricted metrics that they cannot touch or spend today. That leaves us with a liquid cash starting base of roughly $3.54 million. Next, we introduce Uncle Sam, because this liquid cash is taxed as ordinary income at the absolute highest brackets. We subtract the 37% federal income tax rate, plus an additional 10 to 13% for state and local taxes, if the company is headquartered in a major economic hub like New York or California. Just like that, their actual liquid, spendable take-home pay plummets to roughly $1.77 million. $1.77 million. Again, an amazing top-tier livelihood. But remember what has been traded to secure that specific net dollar amount. You have traded an average of 60 to 80 hours of your week, every single week, for decades. You have surrendered the right to walk down a public street without a security detail. Your family lives under a permanent public spotlight. And you have quite literally traded away months, if not years, of your biological lifespan to manage the stress. When you look at the raw hourly rate of usable liquid cash, and you factor in the massive, irreversible lifestyle and biological liabilities required to keep that seat, the ultimate question changes completely. It's no longer a question of how much money these executives make. The real question is being the boss actually worth the cost? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would you take the job? Next time, we're auditing what an Uber driver actually keeps after gas, fees, and vehicle costs. A very different kind of number. Subscribe so you don't miss it.